It's Brett and Coach here, and today I landed in Basel, Switzerland, or France, depending on what exit we have to go out of, and I will be flying to Rijeka, Croatia. So I collected my bag from my previous flight, and let's get checked in. My bag is wet again. Hopefully how I packed will be a little bit better, and hopefully things will not be wet inside. What we think we figured out is that we don't have to go through customs because we're not leaving the airport, but trying to check in and drop off our bags for our next flights, there's really no signage that gives you any form of clear direction on where to go. So we're kind of either guessing by biding our time and hopefully somebody will just come up and help us, or we either have to wait in a really long line, which may just be the incorrect line to begin with. So hopefully we'll figure it out soon. Made it through a mildly hectic security. Luckily everything for us went pretty smoothly. It was the people before us had a couple too large toiletries, which caused a little bit of a delay, and we didn't have to go through customs through Switzerland or France. We were just kind of ushered back in to the main part of the airport. So now off to find our gate and wait around to our next flight. So we are nowhere really near the gate quite yet, and we checked the flight status on our phones and it already has a 30-minute delay. So hopefully it doesn't go much further than that.
And today we'll be flying using Easyjet on an A320.
So out of about 40 different gates that I've walked, I've only really found 3 restaurants. One of them is the duty-free store, which has like little snacks and chocolates.
Which we wandered around but didn't find anything of interest.
There's Bert's, and then there's a Starbucks. But for how decently large this airport is, there's very little food options. And I think I saw 2 vending machines total. I don't know how I feel about this airport. It's kind of a letdown.
In the meantime, let's check out Bert's.
This is the sandwich index.
And I opted for a classic ham and cheese.
Had to break down and get a sandwich quick from this little cafe here. It costs about $9 per sandwich, which is in euros, which isn't too terrible, but still, $9 for a sandwich still seems a little rough, especially the conversion as well. About halfway through my sandwich, it's okay. It's a little tough. The bread's a little chewy. Tastes good though, so I'd probably give it a 5.5 out of 10.
This concludes the sandwich index.
Maybe there's more things to do in the Skyport Lounge. Otherwise, I don't really know what there really is to do to kill time here. But since I'm in coach on Easyjet, I don't have access to the lounge anyway.
Back to exploring and wandering around to kill time.
Also, this airport is the most airport-looking airport I've ever been in, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't think there's anything really special about it. It's just super generic and kind of lifeless and just not really fun to be in.
Even the little bit of artwork feels soulless. All I can do is wait, keep checking the gate information, and look at planes.
After what feels like a very long wait in this airport, we are finally starting to board. Waiting in line after my ticket is checked to board the plane for about 10-15 minutes now. There's not really an update about anything. Doesn't really say why we're delayed either, so we're just forced to stand here like cattle.
And without any update, we were led onto the tarmac so we could board the Airbus A320. And as always, touch the outside of the plane for a good flight. Boarding process was pretty quick with the 2 entrances. Legroom was pretty poor even at my height, but the seat did have decent enough padding for an hour flight.
So besides the delay that Easyjet has never talked about why we were delayed, the product of the plane is actually pretty solid. It is extremely clean, and I feel like this seat is even wider than most. Like, I'm comfortable where I am in the window. Even in the middle seat, it seems pretty comfortable. The flight attendants even allowed us to choose if we board in the front or back, and being in row 27, we opted for the back, which made getting everyone on board pretty easy and pretty seamless, which was kind of a shock. There really isn't any in-flight entertainment. I believe there is Wi-Fi, but I think it just prompts you to the shop store trying to get you on board with their like 25% off deal.
But let's see what's in the seat back pocket. And it has the safety card, branded orange, a little magazine as well, and a bag if you're feeling queasy. Air conditioning was in perfect condition, and the plane itself was in a 3-3 configuration. But now it's time to push back from the gate and actually start takeoff.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome on board this Easyjet Switzerland flight to Rijeka.
Easyjet seems like a popular airline at this airport. We just had to wait for a different Easyjet plane to make their landing. Now that the other plane is out of the way, it's our turn to take off. And takeoff was pretty smooth.
I would also say the tray table's pretty small. Like, it would barely have enough room for like an iPad and a drink. Like, that would be way too much for this little tray table. Additionally, that was probably one of the fastest times ever reaching cruising altitude. I'd say within 10 minutes of takeoff, the seatbelt sign already came off, which felt pretty unheard of. Also, another complaint that I'll have is that there's no outlets at all. There's not a power outlet, there's not a USB outlet, which granted it's only like an hour and a half flight. That's just something that I would enjoy, especially because I'm filming so much, to actually charge my phone. And this was another airline that says we could not use power bricks or batteries, which I don't know, I guess I've never heard of that on an American flight. Now, this was 2 different European flights that say it. Maybe it's just a common practice here in Europe, or the US just doesn't really talk about it, but it's definitely different than what I expected. I do not enjoy having to pay for any refreshments or snacks. I do understand it is a budget airline, so that is just common practice, but even for like a glass of water, a cup of coffee, you'd have to pay. Even offering like a small bag of pretzels or something would be a little nice touch, but I understand why they don't. And for the crew, they seem pretty happy. The safety briefing was slightly less than enthusiastic, but I feel like that's kind of the normal on almost all flights. They seem to be pretty chatty with themselves as well as passengers, especially when they are coming around with refreshments, drinks, and snacks. It is one of those things that you do have to pay, so that may factor into why they may be so chatty when it comes to refreshments. I'm probably one of the last people to ever complain about customer service, just because I've been there, I've worked the retail jobs, I've been the cashier, so you have to really be pushing buttons or doing a bad job for me to critique anything like that. So none of the flight attendants I've really ever come across have been terribly bad by any means. I do have to critique Easyjet for their ground crew a little bit, just because if you have a 30-minute delay, which is fine, it's still just common courtesy to me to give some sort of reasoning why, even if it's just simple as like the other flight got delayed, like lie to us for all I care, just give people something. And why would you make us line up for boarding, check our tickets, and then make us stand in the queue for another 30 minutes? If the plane isn't ready, I prefer just to sit at the gate. Then I can still wander around, run to the bathroom, play on my phone, instead of being corralled like cattle and just told nothing further. Even just the bare minimum of saying, oh, hey, it's going to be a couple minute wait, we're just wrapping things up, making sure everything's in order, or we're cleaning the plane, or making sure that there's enough food and everything, enough refreshments. But to say absolutely nothing and don't really say anything while checking tickets is not really the service I want or expect from any airline, being a budget one or not. I do understand there was a language barrier and a customs and culture barrier a little bit there, but giving no information just doesn't sit right with me, no matter where you are in the world. Just a little extra communication never hurts anyone. Other than that, I'm kind of impressed by this airplane. I expected it to be a lot worse for a budget airline.
With all that being said, it was time to look out the window for the remainder of the flight, watching the sunset. And before I knew it, the seatbelt sign came on, meaning it is time for our descent. And once the sun set, they even dimmed the cabin lights so you could see all the towns below. Our Easyjet flight was wrapping up as we land in Rijeka, Croatia. In which everyone clapped and cheered, which is something I typically do not support doing while on an airplane. But we soon pulled up to this tiny airport. The grounds crew pulled some stairs up and we were allowed off.
Just a flight over an hour, welcome to Rijeka. We walked off the plane directly onto the one runway tarmac and then was basically ushered immediately into baggage claim. And then I believe after baggage claim there's a really quick one lane customs and then we should be all set for Croatia. So there just wasn't customs, we just literally walked outside.
That wraps up my flight experience on Easyjet from Basel to Rijeka, Croatia. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, comment down below, and if you're feeling up to it, please subscribe. And next video, I will be exploring Rijeka, Croatia. Thanks for watching.